For this application, you will be asked to communicate about your background, your experience, and your goals from a gay-centering attitude and orientation, exploring the fit between your individuational needs and the training program. What do you need, and also what is going to be contributed to the training program? Your admission will not be primarily based on traditional criteria, such as, or you might read that as breeder or hetero criteria, such as academic or professional achievement, but more so on your articulated and already demonstrated commitment to the process of gay-centered inner work, to the Institute's values of promoting contemporary Uranian psychoanalysis, and how you convey these values in your written application materials. And now on the second page, we have the actual application process. In order to be considered for the advanced training program in contemporary Uranian psychoanalysis, you will need to A. Answer the following 4 questions. Please write as little or as much as you feel you need to. Other forms of expression are also welcome. 1. What does the ICUP mean to you? 2. Why do you believe you are a good candidate for the advanced training program in contemporary Uranian psychoanalysis? 3. What would you like to get out of the training program in terms of your life goals and future contributions to psychological gay liberation? 4. Anything else? In the first draft of this document, this was much more explicit and outlined very extensively in terms of what to talk about. And there was an interesting debate about, do we take that approach or what you see here now, which, as you can see, is much more simple, much more open-ended. In a sense, it actually puts a little more, it puts a little more pressure on the applicant and also gives the applicant more freedom, more individuality. So it seems to me it has that kind of double effect. Also, an earlier version of number 3 was more simply, what would you like to get out of the training program in terms of your life goals? But then Mitch pointed out that we also want to see the applicants explore their relationship to something larger than their own narcissistic needs, their own personal needs, which is how can you imagine your own contributions to psychological gay liberation? And of course, number 4, again, is extremely open-ended to give people an opportunity. You can also see that we're asking for writing, but other forms of expression are also welcome. So there is, again, a very open-ended possibility of other ways creatively of submitting an application. Section B, you could say, is the more, if you will, more practical or traditional aspect of an application. And I think it started out as a form, and we purposely kind of made it became less and less important as we developed this application. B, submit the following information along with your Part A written answers to the Institute P.O. Box or email address by the end of June 2011, at the end of this month. And this is just the practical stuff of name, mailing address, phone numbers, email, education, professional licenses, professional psychological experience, and other relevant experience. So those things are obviously necessary, but maybe less important than the more exploratory, self-reflective aspect of Section A. Then Section C, participate in a group interview to be arranged in July 2011. You will be contacted for scheduling after receipt of your application. So since so much about this training program, as I understand it so far, is around core process, around the here and now interpersonal churning with our trauma and trying to relate to each other around how we feel in the moment, then it seems like an in-person interview is actually essential to have some actual relating to the applicants and that experience of going through that. Then finally, admissions decision. A decision about your admission will be reached by the end of July 2011. You will be notified by telephone and email. Thank you for your interest in the advanced training program.
Cool. Any other comments?
So there's, as I read this, there's a mixed feeling. On the one hand, I feel ashamed, like getting into some of these details, and then on the other hand, a level of excitement. Sorry, I'm struggling around some body stuff right now in terms of my dry mouth, so I'll have to get some water to help myself here. Sorry, I know there's a certain violence in making you all wait for me to figure out what's going on here. But I do want to take the risk of taking up a little space so that I can be present with what I'm saying here about this application and what this means. I guess one idea that I had as I was meditating and thinking about coming and talking to you all today is that part of what this training program means and the process of applying to a training program is that ideally, Mitch was emphasizing, I think very rightly, the experimental nature of this. But ideally what we're creating is what I think of almost as a living organism, that this training program maybe could even eventually outlast all of us, literally, in terms of our being alive. And that there's some way that as the people who are facilitating the program, the people applying to the program, and people who may come into the program after this first round, are together creating something that could live on. This idea that we can create something that can help foster gayness and that idea of gay love that could continue beyond our actual bodily existences. And to me that seems really amazing and exciting that I might actually participate in some way in helping to birth that. And the only way I can do that, of course, is to try to be real with myself around what that means in terms of my centering of being gayness. That struggle I've been trying to name with all of you around that constant struggle between me and my mother in terms of her dominating and attacking my realness. And then my urge to say that I want to be able to love my gayness and be loving of what it means to be gay and appreciating and valuing and more intensely valuing the symbolism of that. And if we can begin to create a container and a crucible where we're all working towards that, increasing authenticity and increasing valuing or gay centering process, that seems to me like a worthy project. So.
Wow. All right, thank you, Roger. Wow, that's really nice how you hang out with the feelings.
Thanks.
That's nice. It's giving each of us a chance to hang out with our feelings as we go through whatever we're doing out there. It's very nice. Okay, well, we must go on. Thank you very much. So, Doug is now going to share with us a third document, the consent to training, and give you this opportunity to have to just sit there in the stupid icky chair.
It's very irritating.
It's a competition, though. Which ones are ickier, though. What's set nice because it raises up so you can all see.
Yeah.
For down here, right, the back ones have much more trouble.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this consent to training form. It's actually pretty long. In some ways it speaks for itself. So I think I'm going to just read it for. I'll mention a little bit before I go that I'm feeling nervous. I was feeling more nervous before I got here, but for some reason, Mitch, as you were talking about everything, the way that you were doing it, evoking the homosexual luminous so poetically like that for an hour or so, I started actually remembering what we're doing here and what it's for, and I got more connected to something bigger than just my trauma for a little bit. And then I saw you kind of both struggling with being real and trying to be with the intensity of what we're trying to do here, describe it, and we were both kind of I'm trying to be more you, I thought, but also struggling at the same time. And that was really mirroring, actually, for how I feel so small and little inside, and struggling with how disturbing that can feel and how fragmented that can be. As I'm preparing for this today, I was reading it out loud, and I think, oh my God, this is really intense to read this out loud. This is like cooking and frying while reading out loud, which it's supposed to do for you. And I was thinking about being both undeserving, being disembodied in my own body. Last night I was the director of the LGBT specialization in this big fundraiser, and Cassie was there last night. And while I think it was really useful, Matt was there too, but there's something about being here and having my priorities straight, so to speak, kind of exposes a certain violence about myself and my extroversion, and I'm just trying to hang out with that today. And what does it really mean to go into a training process? What does it really mean to actually face oneself and cook? And quite challenging. So I'm going to just hang out with those feelings and read you this consent form, and you can talk about it afterwards. It's called Consent to Training, Advanced Training Program in Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis. This agreement is intended to provide you as a trainee with important information regarding the practices, policies, and procedures of the Advanced Training Program in Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis, the program, and to clarify the nature of the relationship between you as the trainee and the Institute for Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis, ICUP, the organization which is providing this training opportunity. Any questions or concerns regarding the contents of this agreement should be discussed with core training seminar leader Chris Kilborn, or, where appropriate, another member of the Advanced Training Operations Committee, which oversees this program, before signing it. The Advanced Training Program is not designated or intended to be a professional educational process, but rather focused on the personal and introvert in a small group context with a gay-centered initiatory framework. Two important goals of the program are, 1, to help you as trainee develop a more integrated and continually deepening felt sense of homosexual personhood and reliably embodied experience of gay spirit consciousness through ongoing alchemical integration of unconscious processes, homosexually considered. 2, to prepare you as trainee for greater and more responsible participation in the ICUP through increasing mastery of the theory and practice of Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis, CUP. To this end, a series of focused educational and experiential efforts in teaching trainees about CUP both in intrapsychic and interpersonal terms will be provided in vivo. I thought that was important to mention, whatever that in vivo means, which means I'm frying and cooking in my feelings right now as I'm reading this. And that's really what the program is going to be emphasizing, trying to be with the gay shadow in the here and now. Through the training seminar and other opportunities, trainees will be supportively encouraged over time to take fuller responsibility, in particular for naming, confronting, and alchemically transforming difficult psychological material such as internalized homophobia, toxic shame, and childhood trauma in themselves and in colleagues on a regular basis. Training, therefore, consists in significant part of learning how to take better ongoing psychological responsibility for unconscious psychological violence and or internalized homophobia in the service of more so opening up to the long-lost and otherwise buried treasures of the homosexual transpersonal, symbolically apprehended, so that these gaily recovered images, feelings, intuitions, hopes, and dreams can then be further owned, materialized, internalized, and utilized for enhanced trainee self-development, as well as in furthering the ICUP's projects and overall purpose of fostering greater gay self-realization. One significant task of advanced training is to ensure to the greatest extent possible that undigested hurt rage and other forms of primitive, aggressive, and otherwise unmetabolized emotional life resulting from having grown up in the traumatizing context of heterosexist families and society will not be directed in a deleterious way against the trainee's own person, the ICUP, or its membership through overt or covert, intentional or unintentional means.